Greetings to everyone. In this lesson, we are going to learn Unit 7, Siegfried Sasson. Siegfried Sasson, we are going to learn about him and his work, They Suicide in the Trenches. First, about author, biography of author. Siegfried Sasson was a celebrated First World War poet. So, you know that he was a war poet. What is the meaning of war poet? Yeah, a writer writes poem on war experiences. He is called war poet. So his main theme will be war, war experiences. So that we are calling him war poet. He was decorated for bravery during action, but became increasingly critical of the nature of war, publishing a letter in the Times. So he had written a letter, and this letter was also published in the Times. Times, you know that it was a newspaper. He survived the conflict and continued a successful literary career. He had a very good literary career. Siegfried Sasson was born in 8th September in Moorfield, Kent, UK, United Kingdom. His father was a wealthy Jewish businessman and his mother was an Anglo-Catholic. He was educated at Marlborough College and then Clare College, Cambridge University. Though he left without completing his degree, he did not complete his degree. He left in the middle of his education. Between 1907 and the start of the war, he was able to live a comfortable life of writing, playing cricket, and other sporting interests. Before the 1917, he was like us. He was interested only playing cricket and other sporting interests. Later, he became a war poet. His private income meant he did not have to get a job. He nursed ambition to be both play cricket for Kent and become a writer. So he did not have a permanent job. He had a dream to play cricket, and also he wanted to become a writer. His famous book were The Daffodil Murderer, a parody of Everlasting Mercy by John Masefield. Siegfried Sasson and his First World War. So we are going to learn about the experience of him in the World War. The outbreak of World War, Siegfried Siegfried was full of patriotic power and enthusiastic about the war effort because it is quite normal because we all, if we are having any war in our country, we will feel patriotic feeling will and will get always to fight against our enemy. The same he also had the same patriotic fervor. He joined the army just before war was declared, but broken in arm badly, keeping him out of action until 1915. In the war, he wanted to join the army, but what happened? He was arm was broken, so that he was not. He did not in the action in the military till 1915. In 1915, he was hit hard by the death of his brother in Gallipoli. So he had the bitter experience. His brother was killed in Gallipoli in November 1915. He finally made his way to the front line in France. So he joined there and he was in the front line in France. He was shocked by the reality of trench warfare. So when he was in the military, he saw that the reality of warfare, the ugliness of war had a profound influence on his poetic outlook. So he did not like war because so there was a lot of it was not a real factor. So he understood that what was war. So this kind of ugliness made him to become a poet. He wanted to convey this in the poetic outlook. He was also influenced by the fellow poet Robert Graves because Robert Graves was also a war poet. He got influenced by him. Graves' work encouraged him to write gritty, realistic poetry, emphasizing the tragedy and the futility of war. Siegfried gained a reputation for fearless bravery in action because he had really brave persons, so that he got a reputation. He frequently took on dangerous missions with a scant regard for his own life. His men felt a tremendous confidence in his presence, inspired by his bravery and courage. He was a great, bold person. He was a brave person. So others are also got influenced by him. On a occasion, Siegfried single-handedly took a heavily defended German trench in the Hindenburg Line, killing an estimated 50 German with grenade. So I think you are able to understand me, because he single-handedly fought against the Germans, and he killed 50 Germans on his own, alone. His response on taking the German trench was to sit down and read a book of poetry rather than signaling for reinforcement. When he went back, he did not even report the incidents. His commander, Colonel Stockwell, ragged the session for his failure to capitalize on the situation. But he did a lot, but he did not inform to anyone that he killed 50 Germans. But Colonel Stockwell thought that Session did not do anything. He said that he was a failure because he was not able to uh, he was not able to lead the team properly. So Stockwell criticized Session. Stockwell said to Session, "I would like to got you a DSO if you shown more sense." So he wanted to give punishment. He wanted to make him to DSO so that you can get some sense. This incident was typical for Sashan gallantry, disdain for fear, but a mixed motive about the war. He could have said to others so that everybody knows that Sashan he was a brave boy, but they wanted to punish him, so he wanted to make him a DSO. It made him fear because he was did really well. He was not encouraged, so this kind of a depression made him to hate war. He thought that it was a suicidal risk, gaining him the nickname Mad Jack. So he was not really happy to fight against the other country. He don't want to be a soldier, so he got the name Mad Jack. He was later awarded the military cross for bravery in action. But later he was recognized and he got an award also. After the death of his dear friend David Cuthbert, with the encouragement of anti-war intellectuals such as Bernard Russell, Rawson decided to take a public stand against the war. So few are really against to the war. For example, David Herbert, Bernard Russell, they also did not like war. Sasha, they they wanted to write against war. So he wrote a letter to the Times, which was published. So because of the hateness, because of hating of war, he wrote a letter to the Times. The Times means you know that it is a newspaper. He wrote the Time about the ugly side of war, so that it was also published in the papers, the Times. Secret session. Now we are going to learn about this poem, the They Suicide in the Trenches. Suicide in the Trenches is, you know, that it is a war poem, was published in 1819 in Sasson collection Counter Attack and Other Poems. It explores the soul destroying psychological effect of the war through the tale of simple soldier boy who took his own life. So he says that it is like a suicide. If you are in the war, means you are going to suicide yourself. You are going to kill yourself. That is the thought of our author, Siegfried Sessions. Typical to the poet of Session, the crowds that cheered these naive young soldiers on to the war are directly addressed and openly criticized. So the crowd also send likes, crowds like that, the young soldiers to be on the war. They encourage us. I knew now that I am going to read the lines one to two. I knew a simple soldier boy who grinned a life in empty joy. In these two lines, what does he want to say that? He says about the yes, a small, simple soldier boy. He understands that he refers to the simple soldier boy to him. Soldiers himself is empathized through the sibilance of the first line and through the adjective simple. Session intended the soldiers to be representative of all men that joined the war. So here, in this first line, a simple soldier boy compared to the people who joined the war. So all the men who joined the war. His lack of identity is further through the pronoun boy. So no one can identify as the soldier. Not only does this have connotations of innocence, but emphasize how soon the soldiers were forgotten, how insignificant its death. So he says that one can be a soldier, but nobody can identify him, nobody can recognize him, and ever easily he will be forgotten because his death also an insignificant one. The protagonist is described as grinning with joy. Before enlisting as a soldier, his life was full of happiness, enabling him to sleep soundly. So he talks about the life before joining as a soldier. Yeah, before that, he was not able to afraid of war. He was free. He slept soundly. He slept freely. The childlike innocence and blissful ignorance is amplified through the use of rhyming couplets, mimicking the oral quality of nursery rhyme. So, in these two lines, he says that in the first line, he addressed young soldiers, young boy, soldier boy. It refers to the men who involved in the war, and he says that nobody will give importance to the soldiers, and he was not recognized, and his death is also was not a significant one. In the third line, fourth line, what does it say? Slept soundly through the lonesome dark and whistled early with the lark. The same, he says that before the joining as a soldier, he really he was free. That's a person who did not become a soldier was free, and he whistled everywhere. Whistle means you know that he was happy, and in the night also he really slept happily. Line 5 and 6, what does it say? In winter trenches, cow and gloom, with cramps and lies, lack of room. The dramatic shift brings the readers to the hellish trench of World War in stanza 2. So, death immediately permits the stanza through the connotation of winter and its destructive natures. So, here says that, what does he says that? Trenches, what does he want to say? Soldiers crumbs and lies lack of rum. What does it mean? He uses trenches as a metonyms for life on the battlefield. So in winter trenches means it refers to the battlefield. Trenches mean battlefield. So in the battlefield, cow and gloom. His condition was nearly his condition was really awful. With the crumbs and lies and lack of rum, what does it mean? The grievance of trench life seemed endless through the use of polysynthetane. So, a person who is in the battlefield, life is not really easy. It is really it has a lot of awful conditions, means dangerous conditions. So he says that the boy's fractured psychological state is accentuated through the adjectives cow and gloom, which completely juxtabuxes his earlier joy. Cow means to be intimated with the defeat, and it's clear that this what has happened to the soldiers both physically and mentally. So here, what does it mean? Cow means what does it mean? Say that cow and groom. It refers to the psychological state of the soldiers. Means his hand was broken. Our first when Sashan wanted to become soldier, he was there as a soldier. His arm was broken, so that he was not able to continue. Here in the winter trenches, meaning in the winter battlefield, cow and gloom are says about the psychological state. So the boy's the hand was broken, and he is not really good mentally, physically. He was not really good. Line 7 and 8. He put a bullet through his brain. No one spoke of him again. So, he, in the two lines, he says that about the suicide. About suicide. Here, he put a bullet through his brain means he killed himself. And what does it mean? He cannot kill himself because he was shot by somebody. His death was not really death was not recognized by everyone. And his death was also not significant. That is the same line he want to say about no say in the line 7 and 8. No one spoke of him again means after his death he was not remembered by all. It's really quite common a soldier may die in the battlefield. It is quite common. So his death is not really significant one. So that he wanted to say in these lines. Here, Shawson bluntly approaches the taboo topic of suicide in order to shock the reader, and the smug-faced crowds into is used through the repetition of B and P, which creates a violent tone and echo the sound of bullet. So, what does he want to say that B and P, smug-faced crowds? Smug-faced crowds means it says about it refers to the war. Here, he wanted to say about the harsh realities and the psychological effect of a war. A soldier may be killed, but if he got injured, he had to face it. So it was a harsh reality. In the line 8, iambic thermometer is broken through the opening stress level no. This draws the reader's attention to the lack of empathy and attention the soldiers received following his tragic end. A soldier can get the tragic end, but he is not really, he was not identified for a long time. The soldiers is representative of many men and boys who suffered great psychological trauma and death as a result of the war. Their death are unremarkable. I said already, their death are insignificant one. Insignificant one means it's not really celebrated because everybody considers that soldiers may die in the battlefield. It is we believe that. So yes, their death are not really unremarkable amidst the thousands of lives lost. Again, in end stop line is utilized to reflect the finality of the boy's existence both in physically and the memory. So you cannot be always remember for a long time. That is the very sad feelings of our writers. You smug-faced crowds with the kindling high who cheer when soldiers lads march by. The use of second-person pronoun places responsibility on smug-faced crowd. Smug-faced crowds refers to the person who are really sad, young, who were complicit in the young by suicide. During the World War One, nationalistic propaganda encouraged the young men to sign up to a romanticized version of war that completely justifies the hellish reality. So yeah, in the war, what is the reality? The reality is the soldier may be killed, and the ugliness, the war as the ugliest side. But in the outer side, it was published that it was projected that the, completely it was hellish reality. Whatever it may be, it was uh, young soldiers were encouraged to participate in the war. Next, this sibilance in this line creates a hissing accusatory tone that clearly depicts the speaker's anger at the nativity of the public and the part they played in the enlistment. So our author gets angry a bit, angry, because a metaphor is employed as he refers to the crowd's kindling high. So there was a smug-faced crowd. Some smug-faced crowd means it refers to the people who are not participating in the war. But kindling refers to the starting of fire. The speaker is accusing the public of lighting the flames of destruction, ultimately destroyed the lives of so many young men. So our author did not like to have a war. He is against to the war because the ugliest side of the war makes the author to write against the war. Their innocence is further enforced through the colloquial lads, which aligns the familiarity with the soldiers, making their demise seem all the more tragic. Means the soldiers' life is not really permanent. They may be killed. So, our author did not like that soldiers' life are not really taken into consideration by the public people. That is his really a sad side of our author, so that he is mentioning all this line. Sneak home and pray you will never know the hell where youth and laughter go. This is the final lines of Suicide in Trenches. It is a it is a bitter criticism from Sasson about the propaganda that so many young men to be enlisted. Imperatives are employed by the speaker as he orders the smug face crowds to pray that they will never experience the horror of war as he has. So, in the last line, he says that smug face crowd means it refers to the people. The people should pray to the God that there should not be any war in future. Ugly war in future. Youth and laughter are personified as an act of metaphor for the soldiers. War stripped men of the youth, and joy and the western front is the pace they go to die. So here, it's using the metaphor. War strips refers to the youth, and the joy refer to the western front, where they are going to die. Structure and form. Suicide in the trenches is written in three quatrains of iambic terameter. It also creates a sense of endlessness and despair, aligned with the protagonist's state of mind. In line 8, metrical variation is created by the catalogs intent to emphasize the ordinaries of the young boy's suicide, as no one spoke of him again. There is no time to mourn the loss of a single life, and the sacrifice is clearly forgotten. Yes, it is always. What does he want? What does the author want to say there? Uh, Soldiers are participating in the battlefield. They are always in the trenches. Trenches means it refers to the battlefield. They may suicide in the trenches means they may be killed in the battle, but their death was not significant by all. So that says to the people, you should know that ugliness of a battle, ugliness war to be showcased to all, and people also should pray to God that we should not have war in future. This is the main theme is discussed by the author in in this poem. Rhyming scheme. Suicide in the trenches employs an AABB rhyming scheme with rhyming couplet used consciously throughout. Next, the prosodic effect this creates the mimic the oral quality of the nursery rhyme. So this effect makes this it is in a nursery rhyme because they are following the traditional format so that it can be considered as a nursery rhyme. This create an ionic and haunting tone as a child like verse is employed to narrate a tragic and shocking suicide. Furthermore, emphasis is placed on the earth and innocence of the soldiers himself. So he is our author empathize to the youngsters. Suicide in the trenches begins in the English countryside with a young boy determined to fill his life with adventure to overcome the empty joy he felt. Prior to the war, the young boy led a life of simplicity until life in the trenches stripped him of his youth, mind, and life. So, we are talking in this poem about a young boy. He did not, before becoming as a soldier, he did not think about it. His life was totally free. His joy was really, his joy was really more. He was really free, and he whistled a lot. He enjoyed his life. He led a simple life. The horror and loneliness of the trenches ultimately resulted in the young boy's suicide. So, the horror and loneliness of the trenches, the battlefield. The young boy, when he listened to this ugliness of the war, he got suicide. The speaker of the poem points an accusatory finger at the jingoist crowd who encourage young men to join the war and holds them accountable for this tragic loss of life. So he's talked to the people, public people, that the young people, yeah, public people only encourage young people to join the war, and they make only the tragic loss of the life, so that our author says that soldiers to be soldiers to be respected, and the death of the soldiers to be significant, so that he talks to the soldiers in this poem, and he also pray to the god that we should not have war in future. Thank you.